Ladies and gentlemen, if you could just help me welcome Alan Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that really beautiful introduction. Appreciate that. And Carolyn, your music this morning, what a beautiful way of bringing this wonderful topic to our group today. Thank you very much for that. That was beautiful. Okay, now Linda and I, my wife Linda and I, started the Angel Annals Network in 1996. Now, what was the reason why we started that? We were determined to help people understand the spiritual connection that they have with their pets or with animals in nature, and how important that is for people if they want to grow spiritually and become more of the human being that they've always wanted to become. Now, I'm going to share some stories today because we've been collecting stories, thousands of stories throughout these years, and we share them in our columns, in our newsletter, in our books, however way we can share them, because we always felt, and this was really important to us, we always felt that for people to truly understand and appreciate pets and animals, the stories will get them, will open their hearts, will allow them to see, oh, this is a special, special creature, individual, totally equal to me in so many different ways, but in a different type of body. So that connection. And you know, how many in here believe that there are no accidents in life? That things are, isn't that interesting? That that little dog or that little cat or that bird or that fish or that reptile is in your life at this time? There's got to be a reason. The synchronicity, the spiritual connection, all that during that time in your life where you really, truly have a need, both of you, to be together. Now, I really, in my heart of hearts, have seen that for myself personally, and have seen and read and talked with and interviewed people all over the world that really understand that in their hearts because of their own experiences. Now, I wanted to share a particular story that really resonates with me because it's a special story about responsiveness. And that is a quality that we all look towards. And I wanted you to just look at the little boy with the ferret up here on the image. His name is Sean. He has autism. He couldn't be touched. He was having the hardest time just going through life and his basic things. His parents didn't know what to do. They thought maybe a dog would help. It didn't help. The dog was too rambunctious. But Sean discovered, through his parents' help, that ferrets don't scare him, that he actually began taking an interest because his father liked ferrets and had one. So they went to the ferret shelter. And there are shelters, animal shelters, ferret shelters. They found a ferret that was slow-moving, was kind of damaged, but at the same time very gentle. And him and Sean came together and they formed an immediate trust and love for one another. And over the years, or not actually over the months, he began doing more than they ever thought possible with a child that had autism. He began allowing his parents to touch him. He began taking care of, very carefully, gently, under supervision, this ferret, and the ferret became the best pals, the best friends that you can imagine. Now, for a child that had very little future to look forward to because of his situation, and for a ferret that would have probably been put down because of being abused and possibly coming from a background that caused him to be hesitant about humans, these two grew and became more of what they could have been only because they were together. Sean actually began to heal to the point where he joined a little baseball team. He loved baseball, but he was never able to be around the other kids. With Rocky there turning out to be the mascot of his team, the kids were kind and gentle and sweet. They were all together as a team, and to the point where it was just a delightful experience for everybody, including Sean. Now, if something happened that particular year, they actually went on and won the championship for that area when Sean and Rocky were part of the team, and it was a beautiful thing. I wanted to read one thing that was read, Rebecca, the mother, wrote the story and shared with us, and we talked to them about it. And at the when they were in the car after the big game and they were going home, she said, one day I listened as Sean held Rocky in his arms, stroking him and talking to him about everything under the sun. Then he asked, Mommy, what are ferrets made of? And before I could come up with an answer, Sean thought of his own answer. God, he said. Ferrets are made of God. And she wrote, and I agreed with him. So that was just such a nice next step for two individuals, Rocky becoming a whole, loving, gentle animal companion pet of a boy who really needed that. Another story that really, really affected me deeply because it showed how important it is to have caring in your life. If you're cared for another, if you got rid of the anger and moved into the element of love and caring for other human beings and other animals. There was Vanessa Wright wrote a story, and this is the horse right here on the bottom right. Big horse, 1,200 pounds, 17 hands, just a massive horse. But this horse, when she got him and brought him to her ranch, hated other horses to the point where he would charge electric fences and jump over stone walls, anything to chase and attack other horses. Very, very angry. Very, very much, for whatever reason, just could not stand other horses. To the point, too, where he would get injured in the fences, and they would have to stitch him up. And they would have to make sure that he was safe away from other pastures that were nearby. And the other horses were safe from his attacks. Well, Vanessa had had all sorts of medical things, tried to do different things with the horse to try to help him heal from whatever caused him to have this complete, total fury when it came to other horses. And nothing helped. Nothing helped. But what she did was ask for help in a way that maybe all of us do on occasion. We ask for something bigger than ourselves to come in and help us. What can I do? What can be done to help this beautiful horse called Pegasus? And she didn't want to do anything that would, other than help him heal from the traumas of the past and why he was always attacking and have furious reactions to other horses. Well, she came home one day and she was afraid because normally Pegasus would come to that side of the pasture where she would drive in and he was nowhere to be found. And they had just put up metal fences, so she thought, oh my God, what if he really injured himself this time to try to get to the pasture in the next section for the other people that lived near them. Well, she opened the gate and she ran towards the fence where she saw a distant Pegasus at the fence line. And she was so afraid, and then she realized Pegasus looked up and looked at her. And what she saw was a miracle. She saw a little foal poking his head underneath the opening of the fence and was underneath Pegasus' hind legs, just looking around, but maybe a week old, just a little baby. And Pegasus was so sweet and so gentle and so much there as a protector of this little scrawny little foal that just came in from the was brought in as a shelter, as a rescue pony foal with the mother the night before. Both of them looked like they had been eating a lot. They were very much not in very good shape at all. But Pegasus was there and was standing there and was not attacking and was being something very, very special in that moment. And as it turned out, that relationship between those two grew. Even with the little foal and the mother eating hay, and Pegasus always looked at hay and was always angry when other horses got their food before he did, he was calm. He was, how do you say, giving, caring, responding in a way that allowed those horses and that little baby horse to eat in peace. Well, it grew, the relationship grew, they would run side by side, and finally, as this foal became a colt, they let him have the same pasture. And Pegasus trained him, taught him, did all the wonderful things. It was like a herd of two, constantly galloping around. It was beautiful because this young foal that did not have a future was growing to be this beautiful quarter horse because of his learning from his mentor, Pegasus. Now, there's a lot more to the story, and of course, we shared all the details but ultimately, Pegasus found a mission, found something that was important to him. Now, how many of us can say that? We want to teach, we want to help, we want to care about others in our lives. But sometimes we're so busy and we're so filled with something inside of us that we don't know why it's there. The anger, maybe? I'm not sure. There's a lot of stuff going on. We're such complex people, aren't we? So Pegasus realized at that moment that he was going to give and care about this little horse, and they grew. Now this colt, now a quarter horse, moved on to a forever home, as she put it in her story. And Pegasus got all depressed, didn't know what to do, was whining, looking for something that gave a meaning to his life again. So what happened was a filly that lost her mother came and joined Pegasus, and Pegasus became the mentor, the teacher. This is how you become a horse, And from years and years passed, over and over and over again, he was given a young horse to help grow into the horse that they could be. Now, I was wondering, and this is a question that I really kind of enjoyed thinking about myself. Now, each of us, we can maybe contemplate that on this either now or, let's do it right now. Let's just think for a moment. Let's close our eyes, and I'm going to ask this question. And maybe, like Pegasus, we can think of a time when maybe we also can be there for others in a teaching or a mentor sort of way. Have you had a change of heart or attitude by giving of yourself to others? So let's just spend a moment or two, a quiet time, and just think about that in the area of our lives. And we can gently come back. I feel, for me personally, I'm at my best if I'm giving, as Pegasus gave. And what a lesson that this young, massive 1,200-pound horse gave and showed just by example. Another story, and I want you, as I'm telling you this story, I want to make sure that you understand that there's a happy ending, so let's not feel like, oh my goodness. An alcoholic named Anthony. And before I go any further, how many have had cats in your lives at some point? Okay, though you understand. Okay. He was at his very end, depressed, his life in ruins, alcoholism was destroying him. And he was about to do himself in. He had enough. And then he heard a cat that he kind of adopted over in the corner, looking straight at him and going, "Meow, I want dinner." And he, at that moment, broke that cycle of depression, ready to do himself in because his life was in ruins and alcohol has just destroyed him, and he had no way of getting off. He seemed very, very much someone that had no future. But he realized that what's important, I have to feed the cat. And the cat actually was telling him, in no uncertain terms, stop what you're doing. That's not important. I want my food. Now, in many ways, we, in our own heads, have so many things that we do, and so many things that we do each day that's so really important. And then we have a pet who kind of reminds us what's really important. The love for this cat called DC. Now, he was going through a whole bunch of things, and this little kitten next door, this is earlier from that moment, he was going to adopt this little kitten, but not adopt it formally because the cat was not being taken care of. He lived in a trailer park, and the cat was underneath the trailer of another person, but they weren't really feeding him. So this little kitten came over and just basically took ownership of Anthony. And he started calling the little kitten Dirty Chin, little old man, but he finally got down to DC because it was Dirty Chin, and it was easier to say rather than all that line of information. So DC became his cat. And DC would give him the love, and Anthony would give him the love back, and DC got more food and was basically being taken care of by a man who was going through depression and alcoholism. Well, it got really bad, and of course, I started with that not committing suicide because the cat wanted to eat, but that's because of their relationship. He really knew what was important, and that was his caring for his cat. And the cat loved him and would be around him no matter how bad he smelled and all the different things. So all that progressed and began to develop a friendship. And no matter how bad or how awful his life seemed to be, he knew that someone loved him. He knew that he was of worth, of value. And DC gave him that, just a little cat, just another. But why was that cat there with him during that time when it was so important for both of them to survive? The cat wouldn't have survived the way he was being treated in the other trailer. And so they grew. It was interesting. Anthony said, well, he did say, he told us, I stopped what I was doing when I was about to, do myself in, and I went to the kitchen to feed him. I might have been planning to end it all, but I had my priorities straight. When the cat is hungry, he had to be fed. And that was this. And then he says, for reasons I didn't understand, I couldn't hear the humans who had tried to help me, but I heard DC loudly and clearly. Why was he able to stir a remaining spark of humanity in me is a mystery. So Anthony got on a treatment program. He succeeded. He's been dry. He's been not drinking for, I think, over a decade now, has a good job. He has a whole range of love and family and friends that he would never have had DC not been there at that moment and reminded him that he was loved. Do you all feel sometimes that way when you come home after a hard day, and maybe either now or in the past, when you get home and you sit down in your chair or you're thinking about how hard the day was, and then this little furry creature comes up? Does that sometimes happen, and you realize, gosh, life is pretty good. Maybe I had this fight. Maybe work is hard. Maybe my boss is not nice. Whatever it might be, what's the priority? Life is pretty good. Look at this loving creature looking at me and just sharing all of that unconditional, complete, total adoration and love because we're a team and we're going through life together. I wanted to share one story, And then we're going to have the pleasure of Carolyn playing a beautiful song for us, and I'm really looking forward to it. And then we'll come back, and I'm going to, after the song, and talk about a pet personality quiz. And I'm going to tell you, and I wish I could say it's 100% scientific, but maybe not. We'll tell you the type of person you are if you like a particular type of animal, but that will be after the song. But I wanted to share one little story about this fellow right here called Leaf. He's my dog. He's been through a lot with me, and we've been together as a team, and we definitely helped each other survive during perilous times in our lives. But there was this one time when we first got him. He came from an abusive background. He was really kind of, we adopted him at the shelter when he was about a year old. And he just really feared people, didn't like to be touched. He was forever, ever snapping and growling and being just nasty. So I was in the car one day, and I was driving to the dog park to let him exercise. And just a little before we got in the car, we were walking down the sidewalk, and he and a lady came up and said, "Oh, what a cute little dog." And he went, "Ruff." And she backed off and went around. So in the car, I lectured him. I was like a parrot. I said, "Leaf, look at me." He wouldn't look at me. He was looking out the window. "I want you to do one thing." That lady was really nice. She just wanted to pet you. Why in the world did you growl at her? "I want you to do one thing for me. I want you to be nice to somebody. I don't care who it is. I don't care what it is. I just want you to be nice. Please be nice." He yawned, looked out the window. "When are we going to get there? Are we going to throw the ball? I don't really want to listen to all this stuff." So we finally got to the dog park, and we went in, and he was so energetic. He just loves running and playing and not dealing with, the have-tos of being nice, I guess. But there was this older man sitting on a bench further away, and he was, he's wearing a button-up shirt. He looked really proper, and he looked like he was having a hard time walking, and he was throwing his ball for his little dog, a white dog, kind of a fluffy-looking dog. But the dog really wasn't interested because his mouth was too small and the ball was too big, and it was all this. So the man had to go and bring the ball back and throw it again, trying to get his dog to chase it. Now, this is funny because Leaf, when I throw it, he would get it like a retriever, bring it back, drop it. I mean, he loves that game. But he dropped the ball, and he looked over and saw this activity between the older man and his little white dog trying to play, but really not all that interested in gathering the ball and bringing it back. So the man threw it really far, and it was really kind of far for him because it must have been a good throw. And Leaf saw the ball go all the way over there, and the little white dog just sat there, didn't want to chase it. So he ran over, picked up the ball, and instead of running, he trotted back, making sure I saw him, to where the older man was, and dropped the ball at his feet. And this older man reached out with his kind of, leg and arm, with his hand and petted Leaf on the head, and Leaf was wagging his tail, and then Leaf looked at me and said, as if saying, "See?" And put icing on the cake, the older man looked at me and says, "Your dog is so nice." Okay, he did listen. Well, he was getting more and more used to people, and of course with a loving home, and I'm sure many of you who have adopted dogs, with a loving home, there's no end to the results. You just, it's a whole change of heart when you have anybody in an environment where you just love that individual, and they begin to understand they're safe, and they love you back, and you grow and become more and more of a family. Now, given that, let's say this is a perfect time. Carolyn, would you share with us one of your beautiful music? I appreciate it. Thank you. Carolyn is a accomplished songwriter and musician. She's been doing this for quite a while. She plays at wonderful events all around the country, and we appreciate you being here today. Thank you.
I met you at beyond my thoughts, beyond my head, where my heart meets divinity. You said, follow me, follow me, and your hand reached for my own, and you led me into the unknown, and now you're pushing me forward, you're pulling me toward you. Your love is driving me on and on and on and on and on. Into the horizon line we travel until space and time unravel in the melody and in the light. You showed me another sky, another sky, a blue, the shade of my soul, a part of God's sacred whole. And now you're pushing me forward, you're pulling me toward you. Your love is driving me on and on and on and on and on. 'Cause your love goes on and on and on and on and on. Beloved, now I know you by name. I have learned we are one and the same, moving through the eternal way. Home. Oh, now you're pushing me forward, you're pulling me toward you. Your love is driving me along the road you have taken, though you're miles ahead. Your love keeps driving me on and on and on and on and on. 'Cause your love goes on and on and on and on and on. Your love goes on and on and on and on and on. Oh, on and on.
Wow, thank you. So I'm going to give you kind of a little test. Now, when you go to the shelter and you're going to adopt a pet, what pet would you adopt? Would it be a bird? Would it be a cat, a dog? Are you the type of person that would love to go out and ride horses and be with horses? Now think for a moment about that. What would you like to have in your life? What type of animal, pet, animal companion, whatever you want to call them, to be in your life? Now let's think for a moment on that. Also in the sense that what are you attracted to? What kind of animal? Now research shows that the choice of a pet reveals hidden personality traits in each of us. Now, I would love to say this research is 100% scientifically proven, but I can't say that. So as we're going through this, I want you to think in terms of, okay, that might be me. So see if you recognize yourself in this pet personality quiz. Who in here love dogs? Of course, that's, look at okay, now this pet personality, what truly different aspects of who you are. You're honest, loyal, and a team player. That's the hidden aspect of who you are because you love dogs. You forgive easily. You're religious and compassionate. You're a great kisser. True? Everyone is a great kisser? You have a big heart and you desire to help others. And it's interesting, you know, what is the pet, the one you're inclined to adopt, the one you have at home, says about you. And it does say, you wag your tail to someone pets you. How about cats? You're not very traditional. Things like, and wise, you're very wise, clear about what you want. Like DC, I want my dinner, forget what you're doing. A shrewd leader. A deep thinker. Now, I can look around and see a lot of deep thinkers in here, whether you're a dog or cat person, but definitely cats, a deep thinker. And you're self-sufficient. Now, one other thing of this one, this is kind of funny. What you hide in the litter box is between you and the Sandman. So, who enjoys horses? Intelligent. Remember, this is scientific, kinda. Sensitive. Strong streak of stubbornness. Communicate thoughts and feelings easily and gracefully. And allow others to climb on your back and ride to their destination. You stand above the crowd, observing all and tolerating most. Who has a goldfish at home? You appreciate differences in people and lifestyles and are a hopeful person. You're so colorful, charming, and fun to watch that Nemo would be trying to find you. Underneath those scales, you are optimistic, mellow, chicken of the sea. Your motto is, hey dude, don't take it all so seriously, go with the flow. So there's more birds and small animals or reptiles. Who would like to hear about reptiles? You require solitude. You are a self-sufficient person, an independent thinker. You are a mysterious mix of rebelliousness and grace with an engaging touch of slime. Your hidden talent is the ability to change and reinvent yourself easily. Your spouse, family, and friends think they have you pegged, but when you shed your skin, you baffle them once again. That is the one other story. We have a little bit of time I wanted to share. This is kind of the most interesting thing. You know, I wanted to ask, do you all think in terms of, why am I here? Why do I continue through my life? What is my purpose? All the things that we normally ask ourselves trying to move forward on our next steps in life. And the animals often show us exactly what we need to do. They come in our lives at a perfect time. Especially when we're going through crisis, emotional or physical or financial, whatever crisis we might go through, if an animal companion, a family member, even animals in nature when you're going on a nature walk or something that come and show and be there for you during that moment, it helps. It makes you realize, I'm here for a purpose. Now, this is an interesting story, and this happened in New Orleans. Ken Dudek and Dag Nabbit. Dag Nabbit, what a dog. He became almost famous as we developed the story. Now, he was originally from Florida and ended up in New Orleans a year later, and Kim adopted dogs and helped them heal from abuses. Now, he was a pit bull, and they had a lot of things going on down in New Orleans when it comes to that as sort of an underground society, almost a sickness of people fighting dogs. Well, Dag was found and had a couple scars and all the things that you would recognize in a dog that was trained to be a fighter. The horrors of that is just unimaginable. He was actually kidnapped from Florida, where he originally was, according to his tag, and she got more information from the vet. He was just the cutest little fun dog at the time, turned into a vicious, muscle-bound fighter because of what happened in New Orleans and what happened with the dog fighting that basically stole him from his owners. Well, the owners had moved, and the vet said, well, we don't have any record of where they moved to, but we do know that dog was not that way here. He was just a loving, loving pup. So she brought him in, and Dag Nabbit was really very, very aggressive, and she worked very hard, and she actually brought in a whole team of people to work with him. The team of people were medical, veterinarians, a photographer to make sure they documented his progress. But all that came to a screeching halt when he had a vertebrae in his back blow up, and he couldn't walk. His back legs were useless. But this is when, in the time period when Katrina came through and the traumas of New Orleans happened, where they had to move all the dogs, including Dag Nabbit, to a safer place. And slowly but steadily, he began to trust. When you're in an environment of love, you begin to open up and realize it will be okay. These people and these dogs that are around me are not my enemies, but they could very well be my friends. And Dag Nabbit slowly grew to trust and to love, especially after he was no longer able to walk on his back legs. Well, Kim would not give up. She was going to do whatever it took, and Dag Nabbit was there for her, this 85-pound, muscle-bound dog, always sleeping, next to her on her lap, and always there watching TV. I mean, the whole thing was just a beautiful team, woman and her dog. Now, to make a long story short, I wanted to make sure that you understood that this dog came from a place of total viciousness and would have been put down then, to the place of total helplessness and would have put down then if she was listening to the professional vets. Oh, you'll never get him to walk again. But she was determined, and she worked very hard, and she finally found a place that had little wheelchairs for Dag Nabbit. And he began, instead of being depressed and able not to do all the things that he used to be able to do, began working it, got it, did it, ran around the whole yard, did all the things that he wanted to do, and he began realizing how much more there was for his life. And she began realizing how much more was for her life. It's a legacy that she was creating. And Dag Nabbit in New Orleans became almost a celebrity. He would be in the parades, the Dog Day parades, the other ththings that go on down there, because he represented, in a sense, what happened to the city. And people were going to give up on the city. They were going to leave. It was gone. It was no longer something worthy of the healing and love that really it deserved, because it's a beautiful city. And Dag Nabbit the same way. When the legs were no longer operational, when New Orleans had all the problems with the flooding, and there was no longer that safety, a feeling of safety and feeling of security there, so many people would have given up, but her and many others stayed and did whatever they could do to help heal the city, and Dag Nabbit was, in a sense, a representation of that. So Kim's legacy and Dag Nabbit's legacy became an organization, a fundraising organization to bring wheelchairs and to bring healing services to all the dogs and all the people that couldn't afford that help, so they could be able to help their pets heal from the traumas and all the other things that happened in that city that had been through so much. So legacy. And what would be interesting here? I go through my day, as each of you do, and we are trying to figure out why and what we're doing. Is there something in your pet and an animal in nature, or something in there that maybe can trigger giving, doing, and being all that you can be to help another, as Kim did to help Dag Nabbit, and Dag Nabbit paid back in so many different ways, showing that, yeah, even at your worst, even if physically you're not even able to walk, even if you are a vicious fighting machine, you can change. And again, it goes back, and this is a perfect place to talk about this, it goes back to love and determination. And no matter what, you don't give up. You move forward. You do what you have to do. And that's what that story shared. She shared that story with us, and we shared it in our book and our column and everywhere else we could share it. It shows that if you're determined and you have the love, there's no end to the possibilities for you as an individual and for you and your animal companion as a team to move through life and actually do the things that are important to you. I'm sure that if you met them, you wouldn't see in Dag Nabbit at all even a hint of what he once was, because of love. I really wanted to ask you one other thing here, and we'll do this a little bit, but I want you to think in terms of, I want to ask this question. I want you probably just to think about it. Have you had a special animal in your life who has helped you become a better human being? And in my heart, personally, I know it has made me so much better than I would have been had I not had a special animal in my life. And think about that question. Let's just for a moment just think about that question and then maybe appreciate that moment and appreciate that animal as a very special individual that's come into your life or has been in your life during a time when you really needed that support. I want to thank you very much for having me talk today. I appreciate it. Carolyn, are you wanting to do some music as we do? Let me get my note here. So Carolyn's going to play some music, and I think at this point we're going to do an offering. Is that correct? I really, this is a special place. Every time I come in here, I feel very uplifted. It's very, very sweet that you've asked me to talk again. I appreciate that. And if you would, we're going to do our offering.
Engages me in a race. The child who needs her hand held. I am really a dove whose nest fell. But I am a warrior, century Teach me how to fly. Sky, won't you show me how to fly? Sky. My toes bend over the ledge. My arms are outstretched. I close my eyes and wish for wings to lift. Sky, teach me how to fly. Sky, would you show me how to fly? Sky, show me how to fly. Show me how to fly. Show me how to fly. Sky, sky.